The Awakening. The Vespar collective's warships emerged from hyperspace like obsidian knives, cutting through the fabric of reality. Their sleek, angular vessels cast long shadows across Earth's outer colony of New Horizon, a peaceful mining settlement home to 8,000 humans who had never known war. The attack came without warning or declaration, just blinding flashes of energy weapons that carved molten channels through habitation domes and infrastructure nodes. Admiral Krex, Supreme Commander of the Vespar Assault Fleet, observed the destruction from his command deck with 6 compound eyes that reflected the explosions below. His exoskeleton clicked with satisfaction as reports of successful strikes flooded in from his captains. As predicted, he chittered to his sub-commanders. The humans offer no meaningful resistance. Their outer defenses were minimal, and their response capabilities appear non-existent. His mandibles twitched in what passed for amusement among his species. The elders were overly cautious about these creatures. They are scattered, weak, and unprepared, barely worth the resources we've allocated to this conquest. 3 more colonies fell in rapid succession: Europa Station, Ganymede Outpost, and the research facility on Titan. Each time, the pattern was identical: swift, overwhelming force met with disorganized civilian panic and ultimately silence. No military response, no counterattack, not even distress signals after the initial impacts. Curiously quiet, observed Science Officer Thex, whose elongated head tilted in contemplation as she reviewed sensor data. Our intelligence suggested they would beg for terms once we demonstrated our power. Admiral Krex dismissed her concern with a wave of his primary limb. They are in shock. Soon they will plead for mercy, and the collective will consume their worlds as we have done with dozens before them. But as the Vespar fleet approached the Mars perimeter, something unexpected happened. The silence continued, but it took on a different quality. It no longer felt like the stunned quiet of defeat, but rather the poised stillness of a predator about to strike. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean on Earth, in a facility whose existence was known to fewer than 50 humans, Commander Mira Hayes stood before a curved wall of holographic displays. Her weathered face, marked by 30 years of military service, betrayed no emotion as she scanned the incoming data streams. Around her, a team of operators worked in focused silence, their hands dancing across adaptive interfaces. Phantom Protocol is now active, she announced, her voice calm despite the gravity of her words. All stealth platforms are online. Ghost networks are operational, quantum shielding at 97% capacity. Her second-in-command, Major Darius Chen, approached with a tablet. The Vespar have destroyed 4 colonies with an estimated civilian casualty count of 12,000. They're proceeding exactly as the predictive models indicated they would. Commander Hayes nodded, and they have no idea we've been watching them for decades. She tapped a series of commands on the central console. Begin Operation Slingshot. Alert all Spectre units. Engagement protocols are now active. Across the solar system, in what appeared to be empty space, thousands of nano-reflective panels adjusted their position by microns, maintaining perfect invisibility as Earth's true defensive fleet awakened from dormancy. These weren't the publicized military vessels known to the galaxy. Those were merely decoys. These were the products of Project Phantom, a military initiative born 100 years earlier when humanity first detected signals from the Vespar collective and recognized the predatory nature of their expansion. In orbit around Jupiter, Admiral Krex's second-in-command suddenly straightened, his antennae quivering. "Admiral, we're detecting anomalous energy signatures at coordinates Delta 9. "Specify," Krex demanded. "Unknown, sir. They appeared without warning. Our sensors indicate nothing should be there, yet the energy readings are unmistakable." Krex's mandibles clicked in irritation. "Deploy scout vessels. These humans are primitive. Perhaps it's merely atmospheric disturbance or solar radiation." 3 scout ships detached from the main fleet, accelerating toward the coordinates. They vanished before transmitting a single report back, simply disappeared from all sensors and communications grids. For the first time, unease rippled through the Vespar command deck. Krex leaned forward, compound eyes narrowing. What happened to my scouts? Unknown, Admiral. No debris. No energy discharge. They're gone. A message appeared simultaneously across every display in the Vespar fleet. The text was simple, imperfect Vespar script that shouldn't have been known to humans. You awoke what was sleeping. Prepare for consequences. Commander Hayes watched as the Phantom fleet executed its first maneuvers. Invisible to conventional sensors, the human vessels moved with devastating precision. Each had been designed not merely to fight but to exploit specific weaknesses in Vespar technology. Weaknesses humanity had spent decades studying through covert observation. Deploy the quantum disruptors, she ordered. Target their communication nodes first. I want them isolated from each other before they realize what's happening. Across the void of space, microscopic drones swarmed from hidden human vessels, attaching themselves to Vespar ships. Once secured, they injected specialized nanites into the alien vessel's communication systems. Within minutes, the perfectly coordinated Vespar fleet began to fragment as ships lost contact with each other and their command structure. On his flagship, Admiral Krex was experiencing something entirely new to him: confusion. Restore communications, he bellowed, his exoskeleton flushing dark purple with rage. Deploy the secondary array. Systems are not responding, Admiral. His technology officer reported, antennae flat against his head in distress. Something is inside our networks, rewriting protocols faster than we can counter. Another message appeared on their screens. We studied you while you thought us blind. We prepared while you thought us weak. We waited while you thought us ignorant. In Earth's underwater command center, Major Chen approached Commander Hayes. The Vespars are attempting to regroup near Saturn's rings. Should we press the advantage? Hayes studied the tactical display, her eyes reflecting the moving light patterns. Not yet. Let them feel the uncertainty a little longer. Psychological warfare is as important as kinetic action in this phase. She opened a channel to Captain Lyra Santos, commanding Earth's most advanced stealth destroyer, the ESS Revenant. Captain, execute Pattern Omega. Let them see just one of you. In the darkness of space, the Revenant partially deactivated its adaptive camouflage, allowing the Vespar fleet a glimpse of what they faced. The human vessel was unlike anything in their records. Not the crude spacecraft they expected, but a sleek, midnight black ship with pulsing blue energy signatures along its hull. It appeared suddenly within their formation, fired precision weapons that disabled 3 Vespar cruisers without destroying them, and vanished again before their targeting systems could lock. Panic began to spread through the Vespar fleet. Their rigid military hierarchy was unprepared for an enemy that didn't follow expected patterns of engagement. They had anticipated either surrender or conventional warfare, not this ghost that struck without warning and disappeared without trace. Admiral Krex slammed his primary limbs against his command console. This is impossible. Their technology cannot be this advanced. Our intelligence was what we allowed you to see, came a human voice over their communication systems, speaking perfect Vespar language with all the correct pheromone markers embedded in the audio. Commander Hayes stood in her control room, her image now projected onto every Vespar command screen. Admiral Krex of the Vespar Collective. I am Commander Mira Hayes of Earth's Defense Force. You have attacked sovereign human territories without provocation or declaration. You have murdered civilians who posed no threat to you. This was your first and final mistake. Krex's compound eyes widened in shock at hearing his name from this human's mouth. How do you know who I am? How are you in our systems? Hayes's expression remained impassive. We have been monitoring your species for 73 years. We know your language, your technology, your military doctrine. We know the names of your leadership council and the weaknesses in your ship design. When you launched your first scout probes into our system 2 decades ago, we allowed you to see exactly what we wanted you to see. Around the Vespar fleet, more human ships began to shimmer into visibility. Dozens, then hundreds. They had been there all along, invisible sentinels surrounding the invaders in a three-dimensional net of advanced weaponry. Impossible, breathed Krex. Your species is barely space-capable. Your military technology is primitive. Our intelligence, your intelligence, Hayes interrupted, was feeding you what we planted. Those primitive ships you observed. Decoys. Those vulnerable defense systems. Fatcads. Those disorganized military responses. Theater. In the silence that followed, the Vespar fleet's tactical officers were frantically reporting new data as their sensors finally penetrated some of the human stealth technology, revealing a military force far beyond what they had believed possible. You have 1 hour to retreat beyond Neptune's orbit, Commander Hayes continued. Any Vespar vessel remaining in our system after that time will be considered an ongoing threat and eliminated. This is not a negotiation. As the transmission ended, the Vespar command deck erupted in panicked debate. Their entire invasion plan had been based on intelligence that now appeared catastrophically wrong. We should retreat and reassess, Vex urged, her scientific mind already calculating the technological gap their intelligence had missed. Retreat? Retreat? Krex's exoskeleton flushed nearly black with rage. The collective does not retreat from lesser species. This is some form of deception. They cannot be this prepared. They cannot have hidden such military capacity. But even as he spoke, 3 more of his ships suddenly lost power, their systems completely overridden by human cyber warfare protocols that their security had never been designed to resist. Around Earth, humanity's true defensive capabilities continued to awaken. Orbital platforms that had masqueraded as research stations revealed weapon systems. Civilian ships transformed as hidden components activated. And from Mars, a new fleet of vessels unlike any the Vespar had seen began to rise. Quantum-shielded warships that had been constructed in underground facilities beneath the red planet's surface. In her command center, Hayes watched the Vespar fleet's disorganized movements with grim satisfaction. They're confused, she noted to her staff. They're using outdated protocols to try to reestablish their command structure. Will they retreat? Major Chen asked. Hayes studied the tactical display, observing the Vespar ship's movements. No. Their hierarchy doesn't allow for strategic withdrawal without authorization from their central command. Admiral Krex will attempt something desperate rather than admit defeat. She straightened her uniform, which is exactly what we anticipated. As if confirming her prediction, the Vespar flagship suddenly accelerated, leading a formation of their largest warships directly toward Earth. It was a desperate gambit. If they could strike the human homeworld, perhaps they could force surrender despite their tactical disadvantage. Commander Hayes allowed herself a small, cold smile. And now they take the bait. Activate the gravity well. Between the approaching Vespar ships and Earth, space itself seemed to ripple as hidden human installations activated technology that manipulated the fabric of space-time. The Vespar vessels suddenly found themselves caught in an artificial gravity distortion that slowed their advance to a crawl, making them stationary targets. All units, Hayes commanded, her voice carrying to every human ship and installation. Execute Operation Checkmate. The Vespar had awakened something they never expected to find. A humanity that had observed them from shadows, studied their every weakness, and prepared for this day with meticulous precision. They had expected an easy conquest. Instead, they had provoked the ultimate killers, humans who fought not with blind aggression, but with calculated, patient strategy. And now, as the human counterattack began in earnest, the Vespar would learn exactly how grave their miscalculation had been. The Reckoning. Admiral Krex watched in horror as his flagship shuddered under the influence of the human gravity distortion field. His finest warships, the pride of the Vespar collective, hung suspended in space like insects trapped in amber, unable to maneuver or escape. Emergency power to engines, he commanded, mandibles clicking rapidly in distress. Deploy countermeasures. His engineering officer's antennae drooped in defeat. Countermeasures ineffective. Admiral, we have no defense against this technology. Our engines are at maximum but generating insufficient thrust to escape the field. Around them, the human fleet materialized fully from their stealth protocols, an armada that dwarfed the Vespar invasion force. Their vessels displayed a bewildering variety of designs, each seemingly purpose-built for specific tactical applications. Some were massive capital ships bristling with weapon systems, while others were agile strike craft that darted between the immobilized Vespar vessels, attaching unknown devices to their hulls. In Earth's command center, Commander Hayes surveyed the tactical display with the calm efficiency that had made her Earth's foremost military strategist. Begin Phase 2. Deploy the Whisper drones. Major Chen raised an eyebrow. The Whispers? Those are still experimental. This is why we experiment, Major, Hayes replied without taking her eyes from the display. Launch all units. From the human fleet, thousands of small dart-like objects accelerated toward the trapped Vespar ships. Each contained a specialized AI system and nanite payload designed to infiltrate Vespar technology at its most fundamental level. As the drones attached themselves to the alien vessels, they began transmitting data back to the human fleet. Within minutes, complete schematics of Vespar ship design appeared on Commander Hayes' displays, along with real-time information about crew movements, weapon status, and communication attempts. We have full spectrum penetration, reported Lieutenant Commander Ishida, head of cyber operations. Their encryption lasted 12 seconds against our quantum algorithms. Hayes nodded. Open a channel to Admiral Krex. The Vespar Admiral's image appeared on her screen, his compound eyes darting frantically as he realized humans could now initiate communication at will. What is happening? Krex demanded, abandoning all pretense of superiority. What have you done to my ships? We've integrated with them, Hayes answered matter-of-factly. Your vessels now provide us with complete information about your technology, your tactical capabilities, and your biological vulnerabilities. She leaned slightly forward. You should know that we can now deactivate your life support systems with a single command. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Krex felt genuine fear crawl through his exoskeleton. This is not possible. No species has ever developed technology this advanced without being noticed by the collective. Hayes' expression remained impassive. We noticed you long before you noticed us, Admiral. When your first long-range probes entered our system, we captured them, studied them, and released them with carefully crafted data about our civilization. Everything you think you know about humanity was designed to lead you to this moment, to convince you we were an easy target. In the background of the transmission, Krex could see humans working calmly at their stations, coordinating the most devastating military response his species had ever encountered. There was no chaos, no emotional outbursts, just methodical efficiency that seemed more machine than organic. But why? He managed to ask. Why this deception? Because humanity learned its lessons centuries ago, Hayes replied. When we were confined to one world, we fought each other constantly. We nearly destroyed ourselves many times. When we finally reached the stars, we vowed never to be so vulnerable again. She gestured to a display showing the ruined human colonies. Those settlements you destroyed. They were populated, yes, but they were also monitored experiments, special habitats designed to appear vulnerable while testing how alien species might attack. You revealed your tactics, your weapons capabilities, and your ethical boundaries, or lack thereof. Across the solar system, human military vessels continued to emerge from hiding places that Vespar sensors had completely missed. Artificial asteroids that split open to reveal gunships, cloud formations on Jupiter that dispersed to unveil monitoring stations, and orbital platforms around Saturn that had been disguised as natural satellites. We call it the Sleeping Giant Protocol, Hayes continued. While humanity presents a peaceful face to the galaxy, we prepare for the worst in silence. We build in secret, we train in shadow, and we wait to see who reveals themselves as a threat. On his immobilized flagship, Krex frantically consulted with his officers. There must be a way to break free. Reroute power from life support if necessary. Science Officer Fex approached him, her posture showing uncharacteristic defeat. Admiral, I've completed analysis of their technology based on what we can now observe. They are minimum 300 cycles ahead of our most advanced systems. This is not a battle we can win. Krex's mandibles trembled with rage and disbelief. How? How? They were supposed to be primitive. I believe. Fex said carefully. That is a question the elders will be very interested in answering when we report this catastrophic intelligence failure, if we survive to report. On the command deck of the ESS Revenant, Captain Lyra Santos received new orders from Earth Command. She turned to her weapons officer. Target the Vespar flagship's propulsion systems. Precision strike only. Commander Hayes wants them crippled, not destroyed. The Revenant's advanced targeting systems locked onto microscopic weak points in the Vespar vessel's design, vulnerabilities that human intelligence had identified years ago through covert observation. The resulting strike disabled the flagship's engines with surgical precision, leaving life support and other critical systems intact. Similar strikes disabled the propulsion systems of all major Vespar warships simultaneously, leaving them adrift but habitable, a calculated demonstration of both power and restraint. In the depths of the Kuiper Belt, beyond Neptune's orbit, something massive stirred from dormancy. The Perseus platform, the largest and most secret of humanity's military installations, activated its primary systems for the first time since its construction 50 years earlier. Built into a captured asteroid nearly the size of Earth's moon, Perseus housed weapon systems designed for one purpose: the complete elimination of existential threats to human civilization. Commander Hayes received the notification of Perseus activation with a slight nod. Hold Perseus at ready status, she ordered. Let's see if the Vespar can be reasonable before we demonstrate our final capabilities. She reopened the channel to Admiral Krex. Your vessels are now completely under our control. We have disabled your propulsion and weapons systems while maintaining life support and basic functions. This demonstration should clarify your strategic position. Krex's compound eyes fixed on the human commander with a new emotion, something beyond fear that approached a kind of primal awe. What are your terms? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. The Vespar Collective will withdraw all forces from human-controlled space immediately. You will acknowledge Earth and all its colonies as sovereign territory, off-limits to any future expansion. You will provide full reparations for the human lives lost today. Hayes paused, letting the terms sink in. And you will carry a message back to your elders. What message? Krex asked. Hayes' expression hardened slightly. That humanity does not seek conflict, but we are prepared for it beyond anything you can imagine. Tell them that we have studied every spacefaring species in this sector of the galaxy. Tell them that we know their strengths and their weaknesses, and tell them that if any attack human territory again, what happened here today will seem merciful by comparison. For emphasis, she transmitted data showing the Perseus platform awakening in the outer solar system, revealing a weapon system so massive that it dwarfed anything in the Vespar arsenal. The message was clear. This had been a measured response, not the full extent of human military capability. Admiral Krex had no choice. With his fleet disabled and faced with technology centuries beyond his understanding, he formally surrendered to Earth Command. Under close human supervision, the surviving Vespar vessels were permitted to limp out of the solar system, their databases wiped of any tactical information, but filled with evidence of humanity's true capabilities as a warning to any who might consider following their example. 3 days after the failed invasion, Commander Hayes stood in her office overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Major Chen entered with a data tablet. The Vespar have cleared the Kuiper Belt, he reported. Long-range assets confirm they're on a direct course back to their territory. Hayes nodded. And our colonies? Reconstruction drones are already rebuilding the damaged settlements. The population had been evacuated to hardened shelters before the Vespar arrived, as per protocol. Casualties were minimal. She turned from the window. And the rest of the galaxy? Chen smiled slightly. Our monitoring systems have detected increased communication between major alien civilizations. They're discussing what happened to the Vespar fleet. The consensus seems to be shock. Good, Hayes said. Let them wonder. Let them question. Let them fear. She moved to her desk and activated a secure holographic display showing hundreds of alien species and their territories. Small indicators showed the status of hidden human outposts throughout the galaxy, listening posts, stealth platforms, and dormant defense systems that had been quietly deployed over decades. Humanity spent thousands of years fighting itself, she said quietly. We nearly destroyed our civilization multiple times before we learned that preparation prevents aggression. When we reached the stars and realized we weren't alone, we vowed never to be caught unprepared again. Major Chen nodded in understanding. The sleeping giant protocol. Exactly. While our diplomats speak of peace and cooperation, we prepare for the worst in silence. We build in shadow, we train in secret, and we hope these capabilities never need to be revealed. She closed the holographic display. The Vespar made a fundamental error in judgment. They mistook our restraint for weakness. Do you think others will make the same mistake? Chen asked. Hayes considered the question. Perhaps not in our lifetime. The Vespar will spread the word of what happened here, but eventually someone will forget or disbelieve. Someone will test us again. She looked back toward the ocean, where the surface appeared calm despite the powerful currents moving beneath. And when they do, they'll discover what the Vespar learned today, that attacking Earth was the greatest mistake they ever made. Because they didn't just find a planet of humans. Her voice lowered slightly. They awoke the apex predators of the galaxy. In the vast darkness between stars, the Vespar fleet limped homeward, forever changed by their encounter with humanity. They had arrived as conquerors and departed as messengers, carrying with them the most important intelligence their collective had ever received. Earth was not to be challenged. And throughout the galaxy, as news of the failed invasion spread, other civilizations looked toward the small blue planet with new eyes, suddenly aware that beneath humanity's peaceful overtures and diplomatic initiatives lurked something ancient and dangerous, something that had evolved through millennia of conflict and emerged stronger for it, something that watched from shadows with patient, calculating eyes. The sleeping giant had awakened briefly, demonstrated its power, and returned to vigilant slumber. But the galaxy would not soon forget what it had glimpsed.